call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on the best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comments virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
We do not.
Okay, we do not. Perfect. All right, well, we will begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Bell, would you lead us, please?
I will. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I guess I should address that Commissioner Yamamoto is with us virtually today. So if you are watching the live stream, you've not yet seen him because he's on the screen behind us. But for those online, you should be able to see him, except his chair is now empty.
I'm back at my seat.
Oh, there you go.
There's a glitch.
We must have been frozen for a minute. Good morning, Commissioner Yamamoto.
You just...
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I feel like we should make a brief announcement about the noise. So we have construction going on in the room next to ours, and there may be interference in the sound quality. It's not Jane Scott's fault. We can't help it. It's just what it is, and so we hope that everyone will be able to hear us, and that's the situation we're in.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. This is the next step in the completion of the courtroom, which is done, and now we are working on the completion of both the commissioners' meeting rooms and space for the jury. So we expect during the course of this next 2 to 3 months to have varying pieces of construction going on. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. Okay, so we do not have any public comments and we do not have any non-agenda items. So we will go ahead and launch into our legislative administrative agenda with item number 5, which is discussion and consideration of a memorandum of agreement, lease agreement with St. John's United Church of Christ for property located at 602 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon. We should have Marlene Putman, Director of Health and Human Services, with us this morning. Marlene.
I don't see her online.
Okay, in the absence of Marlene, I can carry this. So the health department is doing some renovations over at their clinic. They have a building that they have called the Hooley Building that is attached essentially to the clinic, and they are doing some renovations. Funding was provided, I believe, through the federal government for their federally qualified health center to expand a little in this space and create some additional exam rooms. That requires additional parking for us to be able to do those renovations. And parking was not otherwise available on the site, but St. John's United Church of Christ is just kitty corner across the street from the clinic, and they were able to lease parking spaces through St. John's in order to meet the parking requirements for the clinic. So this agreement before you is with St. John's Church of Christ, United Church of Christ, to lease parking spaces. Terrific. Are there any questions? Okay. Yep, hearing no questions, I'm ready for motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a memorandum of agreement, lease agreement with the St. John's United Church of Christ for property located at 602 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon.
And I would second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Discussion and consideration of a State of Oregon Department of State Lands royalty license number 63746-SG for shore cast dredge spoils at the Mimaloos Boat Launch. Joanne Wolfley, Director of Parks. Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joanne Wolfley for the record. Yes, this is a royalty license with the Department of State Lands to be able to remove dredge spoils from the Mimaloos Boat Launch dewatering pit. So this is necessary for us to be able to move forward with the dredging process. We have to have the pit cleared out in order to put more dredge spoils in to be dewatered. So this is the final permit needed. We're in the home stretch now. Very relieved, and I would be very grateful if you guys would approve and sign this. Thank you, please.
Thank you, Joanne. Questions or comments for Joanne?
Well, I applaud Joanne's tenacity and effort because we've been working on getting permits for dredging at Mimaloos for a couple of years. It's always been a difficult process, and it has become more difficult than it was the last time Joanne had to do it. And so it's multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional, extremely complicated process. And I'm thrilled that we're in the end stages because we had hoped to have Mimaloos dredged by this time last year, and the permitting process went on and on and on and on. And so we're thrilled, fingers crossed, that it's going to be dredged this year before the fall fishing season.
Excellent. And do I remember that this was a more intense permit process because we were going to be able to dredge it this year and then it gave us some maintenance capabilities, or am I remembering incorrectly?
That is true, but I'll ask Joanne to speak to that.
Joanne, can you speak to that? I know that people have often asked, well, why do we have to do this, all this permitting every year? And it's not every year, and this in particular gives us, I think, some maintenance options in the next 7 or 10 years?
Yes, we're going for a 10-year permit, and there's multiple permits that are associated with this. We pretty much have to touch every government agency that's out there that touches water and get a permit from them. So that is the difficult part because it's like a bunch of dominoes, and you have to have all the dominoes lined up in order to make it work. This permit, the royalty license permit, is only going to be through 2025, but it is also a smaller portion. It's an easier permit to attain than some of the bigger ones that have been a hard push to get through. But overall, we're going to have a 10-year permit, and we'll be able to get at least 2 dredges out of that. So that is an awesome deal.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Commissioner Yamamoto, do you have questions or comments?
I don't, other than the fact that the Mimaloos Boat Launch is one of the most highly used boat launches in Tillamook County, and it was bad enough that just one of the boat launch ramps really couldn't be used because it was too shallow. We're getting to the point where both of them are always going to be used. So it's something that we really do need to do, and I applaud you on that also. Persevering through all of these permits that have been necessary. But I think this is a great thing.
Excellent, thank you. And I agree. The Mimaloos is just a very highly used, fabulous fishing spot. And I do know that our fishermen have really been sort of frustrated by the challenges, as we all have been, with permitting in this area. So I'm excited we're nearly to the completion. So,
And also, we're going to talk about and explore the possibility in the next 10 years of reconstructing it, because it could be reconstructed to go further out into the waterway to avoid this situation. The situation is the shallow slope and the accretion of sand and debris. So if it were further out into the waterway where it's deeper, we could avoid that situation. That's a multi-million-dollar project, but there are grants and such that we may be able to find in the next 10 years.
excellent, I'm happy to hear that. All right, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the State of Oregon Department of State Lands Royalty License number 63746SG for Shorecast Dredge Spoils of Metalloos Boat Launch.
That was second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7. Discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of posting a no parking zone on Cape Kiwanda Drive in the community of Pacific City. We have Chris Lady, Director of Public Works, with us this morning. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So, in approximately, I believe it was 2020, the Commissioners created a board order that prohibited parking on Cape Kiwanda Drive along its entire corridor. That board order has been reviewed on the ground with the Sheriff's Department, OPRD, Public Works, and others, and we'd like to modify that board order to allow for parking on the east side of the road with the limited parking availability that is out there, allowing some of the, allow parking on the west side of the road, but no parking would only be on the east side of the road. And that would limit the ability, or that would minimize the pedestrian conflicts of people that are parked on the east side of the road, which we don't want to happen from crossing Cape Kiwanda Drive. So the request is to modify or change that board order as attached in the agenda to effective immediately east side of Cape Kiwanda Drive from its intersection with Circle Drive to Pacific Avenue be to be declared as a no parking zone, except as defined in ORS 801.380, which is regulations governing no parking.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Director Lady?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, Commissioner Yamamoto.
Thank you. Yeah, this got brought up on the parking advisory committee meeting in Pacific City, and at one point it was thought that maybe we would open up both east and west side of Cape Kiwanda Drive to parking, and especially in the areas from like the BCJWSA sewer treatment plant to the Cape. If we allow parking in addition, allow parking on the east side of Cape Kiwanda Drive in that area, things just narrow down way too much. We have seen many instances where families are pushing baby strollers and with kids in hand walking on the street because all the parking, especially on the east side, does not allow room for pedestrian traffic. It's just a very dangerous situation. So I think this is kind of an in-between collaborative move where we can allow parking on the west side of Cape Kiwanda Drive, but especially on the east side from BCJWSA to the Cape, just not having any parking there to allow traffic to move more freely, keep people off of the road. This lady had offered to put up no parking signs on the east side of Cape Kiwanda Drive where he feels it's important that we do so. So I applaud this, and I thank everyone for all of their hard work here.
Excellent, thank
The
you.
signs are on order. That would be a contractor to install the signs, so that is in motion.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Bell, any comments or questions?
Oh, I agree with this. I support this idea. I think it's clear that we need more parking in Pacific City, and I agree with Commissioner Yamamoto that it's important to have some space that's safe for pedestrians and families who are parking at a distance and walking to the Cape, and so I think this is a good approach.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I was not here when the original order was put in place, but it feels like, we are at a space where choosing half of that for parking gives us a nice middle ground where we recognize the need for more parking, but also acknowledge the danger of having it on both sides. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 22-047 in the matter of posting a no parking zone on Cape Kiwanda Drive in the community of Pacific City.
Now, second.
Bring a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, thank you. Okay, Chris, you looks like you've got the next one as well. Discussion and consideration of a contract for goods with, Pepe or Paper Machinery Inc. for the purchase of a 2018 John Deere 6120M cab tractor. Chris?
So if you've seen around the county, the vegetation that is growing up on the side of the road with all the rain that's been ongoing, and the fact that we lost our weed sprayer as he took on another job has really triple compounded the need to be continued on our our vegetation management and our mowing operations. So we have had a mower that's been in fairly poor shape for a while, and we've been actively purchasing new vehicles wherever possible. Occasionally, we run across an offer that is really too good to be true. And this comes down to the relationships that have been built for time with Chris Wafflemaker, our operations superintendent, and Pape Machinery. Pape Machinery has previously leased this particular mower to the city of Portland. It was leased for approximately 1 year, and they paid a rental fee for that full year. The rental fee that they paid was about $100,000, so the value of that equipment was dropped by about approximately $100,000. City of Portland put in 3.5 weeks worth of time on that mower. So they leased it for a year, but they put 3.5 weeks of time on that mower, subsequently knocking off the cost of that by $100,000. In addition to that, we reached out, and our old mower, we did a trade-in value with that for $33,500. Because of contracting law, we did reach out to 2 others, so a total of 3, to seeking bids. So in this particular case, it is the situation where essentially it drives off the parking lot, it drives off the sales lot, and immediate depreciation, very similar to that. So a vehicle that would normally go for $250,000 to $300,000, we're purchasing for $98,884.15 with permission from the commissioners.
Thank you, Chris. Questions or comments?
I just have to say, Chris, that's quite a deal, it really is. It seems to me to be the city of Portland's loss and Tillamook County's gain. You are correct. As I drive around the county, grass is growing very, very tall on all sides, and that puts sight lines, especially if you're at a stop sign, trying to make a turn, and there's tall grass that you can't see over and through. It is a problem. So yeah, I am fully on board with this. That's a great line.
Perfect.
So, one more thing to add to that, people commonly think of a mower as what you push in your yard. When you say mowing, the vehicles behind me are what we're actually using to mow. The number of sheer miles that the county operates does not allow for those push mowers to actually take place. So when I say mowing, this is the vehicle behind me that we are actually using. Due to short staff, the employees are given the opportunity, volunteer to work on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And it is at their discretion to do so. And we do occasionally get employees volunteer to work overtime on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Note that the road department is open Monday through Thursday. So to try to be aggressive with mowing, we are allowing overtime because of lack of staff.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Bell, any comments?
Chris, I just applaud you for being so thoughtful and resourceful about getting high value equipment. This is one of many examples when you found something that's of great value to us for a good price. So thank you for being on the lookout for those. Thanks to Chris Wafflemaker, who you just mentioned, and it seems like this will be a great addition to the Public Works equipment.
Thank you. I completely agree. I think that Again, Portland's lost our game. This is a wonderful opportunity to get the equipment we need, and mowing is so crucial out here. So thank you also, Chris. Please pass on to your staff. We appreciate their willingness to put in an extra day during the week to get the mowing done. That's, we realize it's something they don't have to do, and they do. So we appreciate that. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a contract for goods with Paved Machinery, Inc. for the purchase of a 2018 John Deere 6120M cab tractor.
And I would second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, moving on to item number 9. Discussion concerning an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for construction for Manzanita Transfer Station West Wall Improvements. David McCall, Solid Waste Program Manager. Good morning, David. Are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So what you have before you is the result of a bid process. So over the last several years, we've been looking at actually all 3 of our transfer stations, looking at improvements we need to undertake there to enable us to keep on working, and especially in line with the future. As I've reported to you, between 2019 and 2020, we actually saw a nearly 30% uptick in traffic at our transfer stations, and they're all really working at capacity. So this is the Manzanita Transfer Station, where as a result of several years worth of planning and engineering work, we put out a bid for, this is what we call the West Wall Improvement Project, where we put out a bid for this work. It will provide an additional 4 Z-walls to the project, so we'll be able to take in additional materials there and improve the accessibility and traffic conditions there on site. We had 20 companies request the plans for this bid. We received 4 bids in by the deadline. The low bid was submitted by C.R. Woods General Contractors, and that bid did come in at approximately $89,000 over the engineering estimate, but we do have the budget for this, so it falls within the realm of our possibilities. And so I would request that you approve this notice of intent to award a contract, which will then go out, and then assuming that no objections are received, in 2 weeks you will have the actual contract presented to you. So that construction is not scheduled to begin until September. So we want to make sure we're through the busy summer season before we disrupt traffic with construction on this. So that's the timeline moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Yamamoto?
No, I completely supported this. David, I appreciate all the work you do on this in solid waste. I know you put in a lot of hours, and I really appreciate that so much. Keeping the transfer station up to stuff, able to handle the continuing rise in number of people who see the transfer station, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Commissioner Bell?
We've been talking about this for some time. It's a good plan. It's necessary. It's important to the function of the transfer station, and I'm fully supportive.
Okay, excellent, and as am I. It's definitely something we need to do, and it will make it much better in terms of services for our constituents.
All right, Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 22-048 in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for construction for Manzanita Transfer Station West Wall Improvements.
And I would second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you. I would just note for your information on this, so with the Manzanita project, we had divided it into 2 projects. Like I said, this is the west wall section. We also had an east wall section that went out to bid that would not be started until the west wall part had completed Unfortunately, the bids we received for that were way over the engineer's estimate and far higher than we had budgeted for. Therefore, we are not moving forward with that at this time. So we're doing this to increase our capacity, but as far as repairing the old and changing that, we will not be moving forward with that yet. We want to make sure that we have funds to actually allocate for Pacific City as well and Tillamook, and so that's why the other half of this is not on the agenda today. But once we get this completed, hopefully we'll be able to come back with a better set of bids. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you for that information, appreciate that. We know that with inflation being what it is and supply chain issues, everything right now is just extremely expensive, so we will certainly hope that things drop back down in the future. So, okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item number 10. Discussion and consideration of a resolution in the matter of opposing the Oregon Department of Forestry's Western Habitat Conservation Plan in Tillamook County, Oregon. Commissioner Yamamoto will carry this. Commissioner Yamamoto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a resolution about what the Oregon Department of Forestry and the Oregon Board of Forestry continue to work on what they call the Western Habitat Conservation Plan. As chair of the Council of Forest Crestland Counties and also the chair of FTLAC, Forest Crestland Advisory Council. FTLAC is an advisory council to the Board of Forestry, and Commissioner Scar serves as the voting member for Tillamook County on both CFTLC and FTLAC. We have been working on the Habitat Conservation Plan for 4 years now, 5 years now. This continues to move forward, even over the objections many times of the FTLAC, the advisory committee. This is going to affect harvestable acres. It's going to affect jobs in Tillamook County. It's going to affect revenue in Tillamook County. Tillamook County and our special districts rely heavily on timber revenue, things of that nature. And it's not as if the Department of Forestry doesn't practice sustainable harvest. We do. But it just seems that unlike private industry, the department and even our federal partners, U.S. Forest Service and BLM, they continue to decrease harvest. In this instance, the Habitat Conservation Plan is looking to protect endangered species, which is absolutely a good thing. But as we have pointed out to the Board of Forestry many times, one of the main drivers of the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, appears to be, among other species, the spotted owl. And all of the newest science just points to the fact that, and how this HCP is proposed to increase numbers of spotted owl in particular, is simply by increasing habitat. And yet when you look at what's happening especially at the federal level, U.S. Forest Service, they have over the past couple of decades really cut back on their harvest levels on U.S. Forest Service lands. There are currently hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres of habitat area and that U.S. Forest Service has provided. And yes, numbers of spotted owl continue to decline. And as we have explained many times to the Department of Forestry and the Board of Forestry, the issue here is one of competitors. And that competitor is the barred owl. And all the studies coming out of OSU and many other institutions across the nation are telling us that without control of the barred owl, the spotted owl really has no chance for survival. So, and again, and there are many, many other issues involved with the Habitat Conservation Plan. Many unanswered questions remain that we pose that ODF staff just does not answer, at least to our satisfaction. We feel the Board of Forestry also needs to become very active in asking these tough questions about why they're doing what they're doing and the results that they want. And is this plan, is the Habitat Conservation Plan, is it actually going to get them the results that they want? And we don't think so, and we feel the Board of Forestry should ask all of these questions directly of ODF also. So this is just a resolution stating that, we do object to the method that has been used to this point, and the way that this is continues to move forward. It's just marching forward with no consideration of the objections of the Forest Trust Land Counties. So I'm sorry to be long, but this is something I feel that is very important.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bell, would you like to comment?
I would. A couple of years ago, when I had a meeting at the Department of Forestry to ask about the draft Habitat Conservation Plan, they explained it to me as a mosaic. So if you look at state forest lands across the state, the intention is to protect endangered species and to provide recreation and to provide harvest opportunities. And so they explained it as a mosaic, which was an analogy that works for me because I've made some mosaics. So, setting aside a piece of this for the spotted owl and a piece of this for the is it western bowl?
The tree bowl.
Tree bowl, thank you. And a piece of this for recreation and a piece of this for harvest. And it made sense in theory, but what is missing as far as I'm concerned is economic impact. So the forests in the Tillamook State Forests, as Commissioner Yamamoto just stated, they provide essential income to the county and to all the special districts in the county, including the school districts. And so to not, and that's, true of our county, but also true of all the other Forest Trust Land counties. So to not have economic impact be part of the plan, I think is, I just think it's erroneous. I don't think it's right. So that's my piece.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would agree with both of the commissioners. This is just a very challenging space for us to be working with ODF in, because we really do look at the economic impacts to our communities as well as the potential positive impacts for the endangered species that we're talking about. The challenge that I see is there's something called adaptive management that is a part of the plan. And the adaptive management addresses the fact that we were talking about a 70-year span of time that they are asking us to lock up our forest with these goals of preserving the wildlife, which is a great goal. But what we're looking at is 70 years is a long time to forecast. And so the adaptive management is the piece that says we can't know everything today as we sign this agreement, but we will use adaptive management over time to ensure that the goals of the HCP are met. Well, that scares me because the goals as stated in the HCP do not include the socioeconomic pieces for our communities, as Commissioner Bell referred to. So when they talk about adaptive management, as I've read the plan, they talk about if the spotted owl does not recover, as Commissioner Yamamoto referred to, we will simply add more acres to protected areas so that we give them a better chance. Well, we could add all the acres in the world and ultimately not save the spotted owl and at the same time completely destroy the livelihood of our community. The adaptive management of this plan does not speak to what do we do if we've done everything right and the species is not recovering for a different reason or for even an unknown reason, but we acknowledge that the socioeconomics of these communities are critical. And that just continuing to lock away more acres over the next 70 years to not solve the problem and cause other problems for us is not a viable solution. And currently, when I look at the HCP, I don't see the balance. I don't see the piece that says, here's the end point, here's the cutoff, here's the point where we say, we've done everything we can for the spotted owl, and it's not going to be enough. And we can't continue to damage the communities. We've done everything we can for the tree hole, and still, it's not going to make a difference, therefore we need to draw the line. So I think what we're really asking for from the Board of Forestry and ODF is a dialogue that brings in our needs as human beings and as communities to balance them with the needs of the endangered species. Because we're gonna have to do that one way or the other. If we don't do an HCP, we will continue to have to do surveys prior to every harvest to see if those endangered species are in that area, and it could potentially derail future harvests. So one way or the other, we're gonna need to deal with this. But what we're asking the HCP is to have a space at the table where we are listened to equal to Board of Forestry's opinions, that gives us the voice we need to support and protect our communities, and a way to make sure that if we're gonna say yes to 70 years of ODF-driven management, that we're confident and comfortable that we are able to protect and support the people that rely on that. So what this resolution does is it just expresses our concerns related to these areas, and is really requesting that we get a bigger seat at the table to have this conversation, that ODF respond to our concerns.
I agree. I feel like we're treated as stakeholders. They give us a chair in the room, but we're certainly not treated as partners in this plan. So they listen, but I don't see that they're responding to our concerns. And we are concerned about jobs. We're concerned about families. We're concerned about the businesses in our community, as well as the health of the forest and the species that live in it.
Absolutely, and I think there's sort of a misconception and construed that all we're worried about is money. And I think it's really important to recognize and understand that we are very concerned about our forest. We are very concerned about the species that live there. And I think if you went and asked folks who work in the forest, they're probably more concerned than anyone else. That is their home. They completely understand the ecosystems out there. And so I think it's important to recognize that when we're standing up today, sitting here today with this resolution, it's not just about money, but it is about our community's viability. And that's really, really important. And we feel that there is a balance to be had, but we don't feel like, again, we have that seat at the table. Someone's comments from anywhere in the state of Oregon that were submitted electronically on that habitat conservation plan hold just as much weight as ours. So I could be sitting in Eastern Oregon somewhere and have a love for the tree bowl, and my comment has just as much weight as an entire community who stands to potentially lose their economy. So there is a challenge here that needs to be met by ODF to recognize that we are more than a stakeholder. We deserve more than a chair in the room. We need to have this balance to understand 83% of the land in Tillamook County is state forest land. That is land that was deeded over to the state following the Tillamook burn. It is a really huge part of who we are in Tillamook County, what our lifestyle and livelihoods are. So it's really crucial to us.
But I just need to say, I feel so unnecessary at this point. Because our state is just so much better than us, and I do appreciate that so much. I really do. And I just need to say also that so many people had a hand in writing this resolution and modifying this resolution. That includes Bill Sargent, our county council, Rachel Haggerty, chief of staff, and most recently, the one that took the heavy lift was Commissioner Stark. And I just appreciate all of the hands touching this resolution so much, and I feel we're in a good spot now to pass it.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of resolution number R22-006 in the matter of opposing the Oregon Department of Forestry's Western Habitat Conservation Plan in Tillamook County, Oregon.
And I second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. That is just a really important piece for us. Okay, moving on to item number 11, sorry, I'm ahead of myself, thank you. Number 11, discussion and consideration of a memorandum of agreement for employee recognition with the Teamsters Local Union number 223, International Brotherhood of Teamsters of Portland, Oregon. Commissioner Yamamoto is going to carry this.
Oh, I didn't realize I was sharing this. Thank you. So, sheriff's office, and that. But all of our employees, including the ASME employees, which we're going to be discussing next, they stood with the county through thick and thin, excuse my French, through hell and high water. We had some very, very difficult times over the past 2.5 years, trying to keep the services that the county provides to the residents of Tillamook County moving forward. During the pandemic, we required so much of our employees, and they responded very well, and I just appreciate that so much. We're so short of employees throughout the county. All of the employees who have employment all across the nation, I just wonder what they're doing right now, because we can't fill all the open positions that we have, which means that our current employees, the ones that have stuck with us through thick and thin, have been doing multiple jobs. And so the way I look at this is just one way for the county, using ARPA funds basically, for the most part, to thank our employees for sticking with us, for sticking through thick and thin with the county, for doing all the extra work that really you shouldn't have been responsible for. So this is just the county's very small way of saying thank you to all of our employees throughout the county. And I think it's high time. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time. We had to get union agreement, even though we're trying to give employees money. We had to get the unions buy-in on this, which of course they both did, both ASME and Teamsters. So I just think this is a terrific thing, and I'm looking forward to every employee in Tillamook County, almost every employee in Tillamook County, receiving this loan extension work. Thank you from the county for all that you've done for us.
Thank you. Commissioner Bell?
I also would like to take this opportunity to thank our employees, both Teamsters and ASME employees and our non-represented employees for their exemplary work for the last couple of years. And I agree completely with Commissioner Yamamoto that the problem that we've had being short-staffed has put an inordinate burden on the people who have remained here. And so, there are people in this room who've been doing multiple jobs because we didn't have the staff available to, we simply couldn't hire people. And we are short 15 people in the sheriff's office. Chris Lady talked about people from Public Works in the road department volunteering to work on their weekends because we're short-staffed in that department and can't get the work done. So the people who've remained with us, when we talked about this originally, we talked about it as a retention bonus. So I agree that we want to recognize people, but additionally, this is thanking people for staying. And I think this isn't unique to us either. Every employer that I'm aware of is having trouble recruiting people and having trouble retaining people. So this is a small thing that we can do to retain our employees, and I am very, very grateful for their service.
And I have to agree with both of the commissioners. We are nothing without our employees. What the county provides is service, and that service is provided by those who are employed here. And so we couldn't do what we do without our staff. And so I'm just extremely thankful for our staff, those who have remained with us, those who have recently joined us. This, again, county services are nothing without our employees. And it is a very difficult time. We want to recognize those who have stayed with us. We also want to recognize that in this unprecedented time of inflation, staff are challenged, and we are union. We have contracts that already had negotiated what they would be paid over the next 2 years. So we are offering this on top of that because we recognize that at the time those contracts were negotiated, the world didn't look like it does today. So we are thankful to be able to provide this retention bonus. Hopefully it will help with what everyone's experiencing, because we do value our staff very highly. Okay.
All right. Madam Chair, I move approval of a memorandum of agreement for employee recognition with the Teamsters Local Union Number 223, International Brotherhood of Teamsters of Portland, Oregon.
And I would say,
A motion motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to item 12, which is discussion and consideration of a memorandum of agreement for employee recognition with the Oregon AFSCME Local Number 2734 Union. And Commissioner Yamamoto.
I thought that this one was being carried by Commissioner Bell. Oh, I'm carrying this one.
You've got both. Lucky you.
Okay, well, that's the 26 are exactly the same. A $3,000 retention bonus for employees. These will be determined, especially part-time people. We're going to determine the amount based on the number of hours that they're working. Exact same thing applies. I mean, again, we just want to thank our employees for stuck with us, providing extraordinary service to our residents of Tillamook County. And again, it's just a big thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments, Commissioner Bell?
In case folks don't know, we have two unions. We have the Teamsters represent people at the Sheriff's Office, and AFSCME represents most of our other employees. I think there may be a couple of AFSCME employees at the Sheriff's Office as well doing administrative work. And then we also have a contingent of non-represented employees. And so these memorandums of agreement represent two unions that our employees belong to. And also, Commissioner Yamamoto mentioned this in when he was discussing item 11, but these are ARPA funds. So in case people are watching and wondering where this money is coming from, they're ARPA funds, and retention bonuses are allowed under ARPA funding.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a memorandum of agreement for employee recognition with the Oregon AFSCME Local Number 2734 Union.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. And I would just add quickly that we have folks who are not represented who are also receiving the retention bonus. So while we are approving here specifically to the agreements with the union, it is an agency-wide appreciation. Okay, moving on to item number 13. Discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of members to the Tillamook County Fair Board. Commissioner Bell.
I am indeed liaison to the fair, and I'm happy to talk about this, but I invited Cami Von Sager, who's the director of the fair. I think Cami's online, so I'd love for Cami to talk about this if she will.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Yes, I am very excited. Sorry about that. We have a phone issue. Very excited to have two new fair board members, hopefully being appointed here today. We have Steve Croak, who has been in our community for a lot of years, and he brings a lot of diversity, I think, to the fair board. He's a jack of all trades. He's just a great volunteer, a great individual. I think he'll make a good fit for the rest of the panel that we have. The second candidate who has been selected, and again, hopefully approved here today, is Chris Rondo. And again, he comes with a lot of background. He's got a lot of energy. He has a big commitment and a good heart. Very interested in the fair and how to make it better and make it, how do you say, to have longevity in our community. So I appreciate his enthusiasm and look forward to working with him as well. So I would ask for the commissioner's approval of these two fabulous candidates for the Tillamook County Fair Board.
Thank you, Cami. Comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Yamamoto.
Thank you for that. So when people think of boards and commissions, they think of people sitting around the table, signing paperwork, making decisions. And that's true, except for the fair board. Well, it's not just the fair board, but especially the fair board. This is truly a board that works so hard. I mean, you find find them out there shoveling and digging ditches, just doing any number of things to keep the fairgrounds, operational. This is an amazing thing to watch this fair board work, especially during the fair. Again, they're not sitting in an office somewhere, watching cameras of people moving around the fairgrounds. They're actually out there really working so hard. And Tammy, I just have to say that, already people are talking in anticipation, of the upcoming fair. This is gonna be, I think you're gonna have a record crowd here this year. This is terrific. You've got a great lineup of entertainment and pig and forward races also, as always. Sonoma County Fair is one that's known statewide, region-wide. So again,
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bell?
I am also excited to appoint these candidates to the Fair Board. Chris Rondo, as Cammie said, Chris Rondo brings a ton of energy and love for fairs, and he was eager in his enthusiasm in his interview was infectious. He was eager to get to work. He wanted to know when the Fair Board works and how do they sign up for projects and what do they do, which is ideal because, as Commissioner Yamamoto mentioned, the Fair Board is a working board, as in they treat it like a part-time job. The Fair Board members take the week of the fair off to be there in person working, and they work the other events throughout the year, and they work on projects, and it's a very particular thing to appoint people to the Fair Board because there's so much active work involved. And so in these two candidates, we found people who are excited and interested in doing that. Steve Croak is a great guy, and he can build anything and he can fix anything. And he's masterful at communications, and so he's interested in emergency preparedness and working with the fair as an evacuation center and all kinds of things. And they're both just going to be invaluable. So I'm excited to work with them.
Excellent. Well, I agree. I had the opportunity to be a part of the interviews for this process, which was wonderful. We had other amazing candidates that we were not able to take at this time as well. So we just appreciate so much the community's commitment to our fair and their willingness to jump in and really do, as has been said, the hard work that goes with it. So thank you so much for that. We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of the appointment of Christopher Rondo and Stephen Croak to the Tillamook County Fair Board.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Cammie.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, item number 14, discussion and consideration of a land sale contract with JEI Investment Trust for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the November 5th, 2020 land sale auction, parcel number 15 in Township 3 North, 10 West, section 29AA, lot number 300. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
A couple of weeks ago, the board accepted a letter of intent from JBI Investment for a 0.27 acre parcel in Manzanita that was offered at the 2020 land sale auction. Given the size of the purchase, the county's policy allows for the county to carry the contract on the purchase if desired by the buyer, and so they are looking to acquire our contract. So before you today is a contract for the sale of the property in the amount of $170,000. We have acquired the amount of $34,000 as a down payment, which leaves a balance of $136,000 to be paid monthly over no more than 5 years at 10% interest, which equates to a monthly payment of $2,889.60. So we've received the down payment, recording fees, and it is ready for consideration. Also, this is a property that was dedicated by board order as parks, and so with each payment, 85% of that monthly payment will go to the Parks Department and 15% will go to our land sale fund.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments, commissioners?
foreclosed property list that the county owns to a minimum. She's done a great job of making sure that we don't just continue to hang on to these properties. She turns them into properties that once they are paid for, or once they're purchased, they also start to produce real estate tax revenue. So I just think that's great, and Rachel, you've done a great job of making sure that we don't have a ton of properties on the books, and I want to appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
I'm also thankful to Rachel for her stewardship of this part of our services we offer. And the specific to it being Parks property, Rachel checked with the Parks Department some time ago about their properties. They have a catalog of properties that are not currently being used, and asked, do you have intentions for these in the future? Do you have a use for these in the future? And this is one of the Parks properties that is too small to develop. They didn't intend to use it as a Parks property, so selling it to someone who is interested in it indeed generates tax revenue, but also revenue for Parks and for the land sale program. So I think it's great.
Excellent, thank you, and I appreciate that, we look to have our land in use. I also appreciate that one of the things that Rachel does for us is look to see if there is an opportunity to develop housing for those who work and live here before we let go of properties. We make sure that if there's something that we could do that would be beneficial, we review that as well. So I just, we got a lot of irons in the fire when it comes to property, and I appreciate all that Rachel does to keep us in line. Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a land sale contract with JBI Investment Trust for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the November 5, 2020 land sale auction, parcel number 15, in Township 3 North, 10 West, Section 29 AA, Lot 300.
And I would second.
The motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next thing that we will have is a time certain public hearing at 10 a.m. It is currently 9:58. So I'm going to go ahead and read the upcoming meetings and see if I read nice and slowly, if we can hit our 10 a.m. time certain without having to pause for a minute or two here. So other meetings and announcements coming up. The commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, July 6th, 2022 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held at the courthouse in the Nehalem Room, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. The Board of Commissioners will attend a public hearing on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 1 p.m. and Thursday, July 28th, 2022 at 2 p.m. to consider the petition for the incorporation of the unincorporated community of Oceanside and the creation of the City of Oceanside, number 851-222-000224-PLNG. Petition includes a new tax rate for properties within the proposed city limits of the City of Oceanside at 80 cents per $1,000. Properties proposed to be included in the city limits for the City of Oceanside include all properties currently within the Oceanside unincorporated community boundary. The hearings will be held at the ATV Conference Room, Tillamook County Sheriff's Correctional Facility, 5995 Long Prairie Road, Tillamook, Oregon. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 887-242-77#. Oh, we made it. It's 10 o'clock. Okay. Just trying to be organized here, right? Okay, so we will begin. We have public hearing. Okay. Public hearing is, I don't do a lot of these. Concerning obligating Title III projects for fiscal year 2021-2022, round one. Rachel Hagerty will kick us off on that.
So I'll provide an intro and then we would open up the public hearing. Okay. So as you know, the county has 2 rounds of the Secure Rural Act's Title III funding solicitations that are running concurrently on different timelines given, and that is because of when we received money coming in following public notice and our inability to just pool those funds in that one solicitation. The detailed timelines for both rounds are provided in your board packet and sent by email last week. Today is a public hearing to hear public testimony on the Title III projects submitted for fiscal year 21-22 round one funding. So we can discuss what's been submitted for both, but we are not, you are not considering any allocations in an official capacity for round two. The project submitted for phase one, or excuse me, round one, total $101,000. Excuse me, the amount available is $101,000. We received an application from the Sheriff's Office for a Ford Raptor in the amount of $52,000, and an application from the Oregon Department of Forestry for the Tillman County Air Degree Program in the amount of $101,000. So the total requests are $153,000. On May 11th, you read a motion into the record initiating projects in action required by the Act. The 45-day comment period followed and closed on July 1st, and we received no written public comments. Following the public hearing today, you will deliberate and read the motion that I provided to you to obligate the Title III funds, and then we would proceed with preparing the agreement that would come forth to you as early as next week. The motion provided to you will be appended with your awards, so you will read the motion into the record and then state which projects and how much, and then that would complete the motion. Recall there are 4 authorized uses for these funds. 1, activities under the Firewise Community Program with the intent of providing homeowners in fire-sensitive areas with education and assistance to reduce the risk of wildfires. 2, search and rescue and other emergency services, including firefighting and law enforcement patrols, all on federal lands as defined by the Act. 3, training costs and equipment purchases directly related to emergency services as just described. In developing and carrying out community wildfire protection plans, and ODF has completed this one, so we're really looking at 3 authorized uses. Additionally, I provided a table in your packet summarizing the applications and funding requests for round 1 and round 2 to aid in your decision making. And the board's deliberation of the round 2 funding will occur following the round 2 public hearing on August 3rd, and then agreements presumably the following week. So with that, you can open the public hearing as you start.
Okay, and Rachel,
Unless you have any questions.
yeah, I was gonna say, the question, I know that there was some carryover potential funding that we had allocated in a prior amount of money. Is that something, do you wanna talk about that now and add that to what we're looking at, or do you wanna do that after we have public comment?
Can you say your question now?
Yes, I can. So it's my understanding that there is money that the sheriff has that they have not yet expended that will make a difference when we get to, potentially could make a difference when we get to the deliberation period here for round 1. There's $101,000 available, but there is a carryover from the sheriff's department of $37,000 and change, if I'm not mistaken. So do we want to talk about that now, or is that a deliberation point after public comment?
I can provide it now.
If you could provide that now, I think that would just be helpful, so we all have that in our thoughts.
Yep,
Thank you.
Yep, so we have 2 agreements, one with the Oregon Department of Forestry from prior allocations with an outstanding amount of $23,210. I've heard that they've spent that, but I have not received a reimbursement for that. So technically, that is still on our books. Similarly, the Sheriff's Office outstanding agreement for search and rescue in general, actually, I recall an amount of around $37,500.
Okay, so there's $37,500 remaining for search and rescue. There's $23,210 that we have not yet been billed for, but we believe they have expended it, and I think we may have someone who can share with us that in their public comment today, just to confirm that piece of it, which will change. Then we show in our, that we have $52,000, shy, but if there is 37.5 that has not been expended, then our actual amount that we are assuming the 23 is spent, 37 is not spent, the actual amount asked for that does not exist is closer to 20. Do you have that number?
Well, I don't know if that's accurate because the application provided by the sheriff's office has a total project of 89. So I think he has already recognized the balance of
Okay.
the 37.5.
Okay, so yeah, that 37.5 is already accounted for, if you will, in their request.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I think they need the full to make the Raptor project happen. The
Gotcha.
Raptor purchase happen.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if they are online, but I'm reading from their application.
Okay, I appreciate that. Commissioners, anyone else have a question for Rachel before we open the public comment, or public hearing?
Just as a matter of clarification, we can, in this first round, we can we partially fund one of these requests? For example, if we were to fully fund the Tillamook County Yard Debris Program and partially fund the Ford Raptor with the intention of completing funding for the Ford Raptor in the second round, because the sheriff has already told us that it'll be many, many months or a year or more, you know, even if they order it now, it'll be forever before we get it. So can we partially fund something now and then move that forward to the second round?
Yes, you can partially fund, and you're gonna have to because the requests exceed the amount. However, I don't know how you would move the Raptor forward because the Raptor wasn't submitted in round 2.
Okay.
I would have to investigate that a little bit, but you are evaluating projects submitted for round 1.
Gotcha.
And you're gonna be evaluating projects submitted for round 2. I don't know how you shift those back and forth.
Okay, okay, because they didn't ask for simply search and rescue, they were specific as to what they were asking for.
They are specific in all 4 of their applications across round 1 and 2. I think the only real flexibility you have in partial funding and making it up later is in the yard debris program because they've submitted the project twice for different amounts.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Yamamoto, do you have questions for Rachel before we open the public hearing?
I do, my head is spinning here, so, so we've got 2 rounds, $101,000 is available in this first round. We have $153,000 in total requests for that $101,000, which puts us $52,000 in arrears. So I want to go back to what the sheriff's office may have, but yet remains unspent. Is that the $37,500?
Correct. Which they are, per the grant application, we are asking.
I'm sorry, you broke up there a little bit on the audio.
So, per their grant application, the total project cost for the Raptor is $89,000. They're asking for 52. They're asking for 52 to combine with the previous 37.5.
So can we carry over any of this $101,000 available funding to the second round?
I do not believe so. We've never done that to my knowledge. I think given the act requirements and the fact that I couldn't pool funds, I think it is very rigid and this is round 1 and round 2. However, I would offer up that you could have a third round if you were going to allocate money, but I don't really know what that gains you, but I don't know how you literally move the Raptor project forward into round 2. Let me say that more generally. I don't know how you move any projects submitted for round 1 to round 2 because you did specific public notice requests asking for round 1, closing it, asking for public comment, and so on.
Oh, okay. So when do we, and so there's going to be additional additional funding available in round two is $70,897. But again, we've got total funding requests in round two of $141,794. So,
Yeah, and the requests for round one exceed the available funding by $52,000, and the requests for round two exceed the availability funding in the amount of around $71,000. So another way to look at this is, between round one and round two is, there's not enough money to meet all the requests, so just know that.
the ODF has requested in both rounds, ODF for the Tillamook County RGB program has requested 100% of the Title III funds.
Correct.
Okay, okay. But at the same time, I do see the sheriff's office has put in for search and rescue an incident response vehicle. So can we, I heard it earlier, can we even discuss what's in potentially round two?
You can, but I would be careful to deliberate on your opinions of future funding, because the public comment period is still open and you haven't received testimony to that, and we're not deliberating with that. So, but I think naturally you're going to be thinking about what you might want to fund, but I'd caution on any official deliberation and, well, we can fund this or that, and
It should not be that difficult. Okay, I understand what you're saying. So, okay, so let me get my calculator out. I'll do this behind the scenes so no one knows what I'm doing.
we can see your calculator, Commissioner.
I know,
I'm just,
I know.
Yeah, I think it naturally, we will speak a little bit about what all is possible and money is there, but
Yeah.
agreed, we cannot make a decision related to that. We already have the applications for round two,
correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay, okay. Which might give us some clarity about what is an incident response vehicle. Is that something that you can share with us, even though this is round one?
Yes, and you had that when you did the initiating officer.
Correct, I do not have it in front of me to recall. If the level of detail explained to us what that incident response vehicle was, because I think there's some question there related to what's the Raptor, what's the response?
So,
Isn't it quad?
yeah, so the Raptor is a truck.
Right,
Yeah, that will be outfitted, I believe mostly for Sand Lake.
Sure.
And then the incident command vehicle, reading from the application, yeah, it doesn't really say. And it is different from an ATV, because an ATV, we know what an ATV is, and so I
Correct.
don't know if that's more like a Razor.
okay, so we're unclear on the incident response vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rail, okay. So, can we talk about past Grant 3 awards? So in the past, how much have we funded ODF for the Tillamook County RGB program? Do you have those numbers in front of you, Rachel?
I do, I can tell you. In the 17-18 grant, which was a multi-year grant, I can just give you totals, which is not really gonna give you a good picture because it went across multiple years. We allocated ODF 180,000, and then they received 100,000 in the 18-19 cycle, so, which is then carried over to where we were last year, so I think that money maybe was 2-year money, so. I can't speak to how they allocate it annually because we haven't literally given an annual amount, and the billing lags significantly, and so I think maybe Oregon Department of Forestry could speak to generally what's your annual need, might be a better question.
Okay, thank you, I think that's helpful, yeah. So commissioners, are we ready to move to the public hearing? I know that we do have someone here, I believe, to speak in the public hearing. Do we have, is that correct?
Dave Helmers.
Okay, so what I would like to do, commissioners, if you are ready, we would go ahead and open the public hearing at 10:15. We will ask for any public comments for the public hearing. So I understand that we do have Dave, and I'm sorry, I just heard the last name, out of my head, Helmerich. Thank you. Dave, if you would like to make a comment?
So I want to clarify on some of the stuff Rachel brought up. The $23,000 that she says we still have, we have spent.
Okay.
Is going through the process of billing through the state in Salem. So that amount that we have been allocated is already is fully gone.
Okay.
So the roughly depending on the year and of funding, how much it normally goes, it's varied over the years. We don't have it's set. It's going to cost us $60,000 every year. There's been a couple years where it's been $50,000 up to almost $90,000. Just depends on how big the push is on advertising and also the local fire activity that we have. I know there's been a couple years where that $80,000-$90,000 mark was higher because of the local fires that we had in the area. For instance, Pike Road in 2020. I think that was the year that we extended the program in an extra month, which it pushed us over that $80,000 for the time span that we ran the program. With us not starting it until July 15th, I can see we're probably going to be closer to the maybe $40,000 mark. I can't say exactly, but any carryover then would allow us to extend it into the following year, and depending on what the round 1 and round 2 allocations allow us to keep it going for that following year.
Okay, thank you for that. So, in terms of the response to the Pike Road fire and the reason that the program was so much more expensive, was it because all of the things that were burned had to be cut down and then disposed of?
No, I think it was a kind of a wake up call to a lot of local community, and realizing that they need to do a lot more. A lot of that fire damaged vegetation I don't believe that was part of any of the yard debris, because a lot of that was removed by contractors.
Okay.
And contractors are not allowed to use those because they're disposing of a lot more.
Okay. So it actually almost doubled use of the program because of public awareness?
I believe so.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry for the fire, obviously, but, the fact that people thought about, wow, what flammable material do I have around my house, is precisely the intention of your program.
And this year with, the wetter spring that we've had, people gotta be cognizant of there's gonna be a lot more vegetation this year around their homes. So I can see that, this year could be a bigger year, especially with the last couple of years of hot, dry weather, a lot more fires, not just locally, but around the state as well.
Okay.
And can you talk a little bit about when the greatest demand occurs? So,
It's spread out pretty evenly. I don't have an actual breakdown of what months are bigger months, but I know when we go into fire ban on July 15th, it gives homeowners another option to get rid of that vegetation instead of burning it.
Okay.
And sitting on what we call sitting on the landscape, ready to burn and possibly having a fire issue.
okay, thank you. Mr. Yamamoto, do you have a question?
Yes, please. So, is this program, the yard debris program, is this spread out through other counties in Oregon also? Do other counties fund this type of program for ODF?
No, we are actually the only county or an only district in the state that actually does this. So this is specifically Tillamook County. I believe that there's other counties out there that have Title III fundings, but I don't know what exactly they use those programs for. This program also doesn't just, its main thing is to support the Title III or the yard debris program, but it also gives us opportunities to do more prevention activities. So we have a booth at the Home and Garden Show, at the fair, and give us an opportunity to get some more of that information out. We also do, and we will continue to do free home ignition zone inspections as well after this program is not funded anymore, because it's something that we're pushing with ODF and state fire marshals as well.
That's great.
Is there any talk within ODF about possibly supplying some funding for this type of program across Oregon?
I don't know if there's any talks around the state about this. I know that there's other grants out there that we've been looking at trying to get to continue the program if the Title III funding, but a lot of the grants are focused a lot on the higher fire use areas or fire affected areas, Southwest Oregon, Eastern Oregon, where they have a lot more fire load.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I see Matt Kelly's on, he might be able to provide some testimony as well as you can ask about the incident response vehicle.
So are there any further questions for Dave before we move on? Okay, thank you so much, Dave. Under Sheriff Kelly, are you with us, and do you have comment related to your application?
Yes, ma'am, I am here. I'm sorry I wasn't aware this was on. The sheriff did advise me, but I know that we are applying to replace the Raptor. It's starting to cost us more money than it's worth to repair it. It takes a lot of abuse out of it. So the sheriff intends to replace it with a newer Raptor as soon as the portals open up for purchasing through Ford. And I can try and answer any questions, sorry.
Can we ask him about the incident response vehicle?
I think that's from a clarification, yeah, you would have asked it earlier, so I think that's from a clarification.
So, Under Sheriff, we are noticing actually in round 2 that there is a request for an incident response vehicle. Can you tell us what that is exactly?
And once again, he hasn't explained all his plans to me, but I know at one point he was talking about a command incident trailer of some type. I think his intention is to upgrade the trailer that we have now, but I don't know the specific details to that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Bell?
So Matt, looking at the round 2 applications that I know you said you just don't have right in front of you, it looks to me like the therefore SAR, which may or may not take place on federal land. And if I'm reading this correctly, the Title III funds for search and rescue and other emergency services, including firefighting, law enforcement, etc., that the Title III uses for them are on federal land, which makes the Ford Raptor completely appropriate because we're talking about using that as Sand Lake, which is federal. But in terms of SAR incident response, we can't guarantee that that's going to be on federal land. Am I correct? Because it's all over the place, right?
Correct. It would be used in a multi-faceted. It can be used if there's a search and rescue on federal land, it would be used in that capacity also. But much like the Raptor, it doesn't stay on federal land the entire time. It main focus is U.S. Forest Service properties, but it does end up in beautiful downtown Tillamook sometimes too.
Okay, thank you.
I did find the language in the application. It says it will be used as a main workspace and storage area for equipment. So I think it is a trailer, and it can also serve, as an op center for communication capabilities.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Yamamoto, did you have questions?
I do, several actually, and probably for Matt. So Matt, and I know we're not in round 2 yet, but search and rescue, are these Title III funds, are these the basic income you have for search and rescue? Does the county provide any other search and rescue funding? Do you have other grant opportunities? I know this is just right off the top of your head, but I'm just trying to get some clarity here.
It's basically yes to your question. We use the county, we do budget, I think it's $5,000 for a line item for search and rescue, which is minimal. I mean, the equipment is a lot more expensive than that, so we have to budget responsibly. We get a pretty good amount of donations. We were pretty lucky in that capacity, so we use that a lot. And then Title III and any other revenues that we can fundraise. We do the silent auction. We're planning on doing that again. That's been very successful in the past. So our search and rescue program is made up of all those things. It's the county line item budget, donations, fundraising, and we're able to do pretty well with that, I think. But Title III is one of those components.
I would have to agree with Commissioner Bell here. The Ford Raptor really seems ideal because it is primarily used on U.S. Forest Service land, and your vehicles out there absolutely take a beating. There's no doubt about that. Can I ask a question of county council at this point?
I'm here, dude.
So Bill, the SAR, and looking at round 2, search and rescue, ATVs, incident response vehicles, tugboats, these are important to me, they are. But are these eligible under Title III off the top of your head?
Well, when I first looked at the documents that Commissioner Bell referenced, off the top of my head, I think the language is they're supposed to be exclusively used on forest, federal land. So that caught my attention a little bit too, because the Ford Raptor probably shouldn't be off running around up in the Potomac State Forest. So I don't know quite how to answer, but I think that vehicle should, if we were really going to follow the letter of the law, be used at Sand Lake or somewhere, I guess, up on the Siuslaw National Forest. So, yeah, I had a little concern about that when I saw it too. I wasn't going to bring it up because I know, it's a practical matter that, it serves a good purpose, but I suppose if the feds ever really took us to task on it, we might have a little bit of explaining to do. So anyway, yeah, it should be used on, I think it should be used on per the grant, federal lands.
So can I ask a question related to that as well? So in the event that it was paid for, let's say 75% by Title III and 25% by the donations or other things that we received, do we look at that as a balance of it? 75% it's on federal and 25% it's doing other things, and is that a reasonable approach?
Yeah, I think that would give us a good argument, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah, it would give us a real, now, I mean,
Right.
as a practical matter, I don't imagine the feds are gonna come take a look at us, but that doesn't mean I can sit here and say, the commissioner should sit here and say, well, we're just gonna use it however.
Sure.
As a practical matter, it's a good deal, so, yeah. But I think that would give us
Gives us a bit of reality check and cover there.
a legitimate comeback if asked, yes.
Sure. Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, I would also add that I had a similar conversation, or had a conversation around this exact topic on the split when we were looking at allocating Title III money to the drone. And it was pretty loose, but but in discussion with my representative, it sounds like it needs to be predominantly on Forest Service land or federal lands, and, you know, if we're kind of blurring the line and we get into who's gonna track it and how many hours, and we just kind of left it at that. So for what that's worth, I do like the idea.
Commissioners, if we're talking about the Sand Lake truck, I'm comfortable saying it's predominantly, we're talking at the high 99, 98% of the time, that is what it's for. The search and rescue component might be a bit of a stretch for the trailer, for the commands, but the Raptor truck that's used by the Sand Lake deputy, that's what it's there for. It's rarely used outside of that. It's more commute back and forth to his work area, and every once in a while they'll have to respond to incidents outside of that area, but it's in the high 90s. I'd be willing to say that.
And I expect that that's tracked in the sense that we know when we have somebody scheduled at Sand Lake and they are at Sand Lake. So should there ever be a question, we do already have, you know, the information we would need to justify, correct?
Correct. It's paid, that deputy's paid out of the ATV Safety Grant Committee, so that's all tracked so that we can get reimbursed for that money.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Val?
And am I remembering correctly that we do have a search and rescue incidents response trailer? Because I could have sworn that I toured it at an event. So is this application for an upgrade?
That's my belief. Like I said, the sheriff hasn't explained his application to me, but we currently have a trailer, and I know that one of the ditches upgraded. So I'm pretty sure that's what this application is for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Another question for Bill. Bill, this brings up a whole different question here. So, Oregon Department of Forestry and their request for Tillamook County Yard Debris Program using Title III funds, which again should be for federal forest use.
I think isn't it the Firewise?
How does that fit in? With
I
what
don't,
we're doing with Title III funds?
I don't think it does, David, maybe
Yeah.
Rachel.
I can answer that. We may want to close the public hearing if we're getting into deliberation with the board, but there's no requirement stated in the act, Commissioner, for the Firewise program to be on federal lands. Because this is a community program, and it just, I mean, the federal agencies would not be using those funds, and it doesn't specify. It's only with regard to search and rescue and other emergency services where it states it has to be on federal land. So we're talking about apples and oranges.
Okay.
So, Rachel, I think what you're telling me is that you feel that this ODF grant request for the yard debris program using Title III funds is fully appropriate.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's how you funded the yard debris program for many years.
Yeah, and I totally agree, David.
Again, when you start talking federal use, and that's where I'm a little fuzzy again.
Well, there are 4 authorized uses, and Firewise is one of them.
Okay.
Okay, are there other questions specifically for Matt or for Dave before we close the public hearing and begin our deliberation, which, as Rachel's pointed out, we're kind of beginning that process currently. So is there any other information in our public comment that anyone would like to see from those in the room? Hearing none, I think we will go ahead and we will close the public hearing at 10:34, and we will move on to deliberation.
Which is the next agenda item,
Consideration. So we move on, thank you, to number 16. I was just gonna flow right into that, let us be official. Consideration on obligating Title III projects for fiscal year 2021-2022, round 1. Rachel, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Ready for your deliberation.
Thank you, now having told you what we're gonna do that. So deliberation, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. Well, Commissioners, I have a proposal. I am completely committed to the yard debris program and to the Ford Raptor. And because we can't move the Ford Raptor into round 2, I suggest that we approve $52,000 for the Ford Raptor, $49,000 for the yard debris program, because we can come back to the yard debris program and approve more for that in round 2. And then that takes care of what we have today. 59 and 52 rather for the Ford Raptor, 49 for the yard debris program. And then that gives us a little more time to dig into the additional SAR applications which may or may not be appropriate for Title III funds.
Thank you. Commissioner Yamamoto.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I was thinking also. Then we can put off the rest of the discussion on additional money to round 2. And I would like county council, if indeed we do this, I would like county council to really dig into search and rescue, to see if Title III funding is even appropriate for search and rescue items. But the round 2 grant application, am I correct in that those are closed? Nothing can be added, correct?
Correct, Commissioner. The application deadline for round 2 was May 31st. On June 8th, you read a motion into the record initiating those projects, and then I did a 40-day public notice on June 9th, as required by the Act. So currently, we are in the 45-day public comment period, which closes July 29th. So you will discuss round 2 projects, just like you are today for round 1, following a public hearing, deliberate, award on August 3rd.
Okay, perfect.
So we have a month.
Okay, yep. That makes perfect sense to me, and so, Commissioner Bell, if that was the motion that you made, I would second it.
I will make the motion, but I'd like to hear from Commissioner Starr first.
And
No.
just a point of clarification, for this particular process, the motion provided to has to be read verbatim into the record. And so when you get to that point, read that and then append with your allocations.
Okay.
So I will just say I am in agreement. I think that that's a good solution. I appreciate Commissioner Bell's suggestion and her math. I always say to do math in front of a camera, so I appreciate that. And I would be open to a motion as stipulated in the package.
All right, Madam Chair, the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners is required to formally obligate any projects under Title III of the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act of 2000. Motion to obligate Title III funds to the grant projects for fiscal year 2021-2022, round 1 is as follows: $52,000 to the Sheriff's Office Ford Raptor, and $49,000 to Oregon Department of Forestry Tillamook County Yard Debris Program, with the understanding that we will revisit their second application in the second round.
I would second.
So I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Phew. Boy, federal stuff is never easy. Thank you so much, federal government. I'm sure they somewhere have a thing that says the paperwork on this will take you 25 minutes, right? Right, now we are how many hours later? Okay, thank you all very much. So the last thing on our agenda, we have board concerns or non-agenda items. Commissioners, any board concerns or non-agenda items?
I want to thank Dave for being here, and thanks for applying for both rounds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yamamoto, comments or non-agenda items?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. We will adjourn this meeting at 10:39.